The ice cream truck's coming!
Charlie, my 6-year-old brother, yelled.
I'm going to ask Dad for some money.
Dad said not to disturb him unless it's an emergency, I warned.
But this is an emergency! An ice cream emergency! Dad and I always get ice cream together!
Charlie pouted.
How about if I paid for the ice cream? Will that be okay, Charlie?
Neil, my boyfriend, asked.
Sure!
Charlie looked at me for confirmation and I nodded. Neil was the perfect boyfriend, and maybe that should have been a big red flag. If you want to find out what happened between Neil and I, keep watching the video. Neil took Charlie's hand and walked outside to the ice cream truck. They returned a few minutes later with 3 ice cream cones and a tub of ice cream. I took the tub and placed it in the freezer for dessert. Neil handed me the extra ice cream cone. After Charlie ate his ice cream cone, he went to his room to play while Neil and I watched the television. 15 minutes later, Dad emerged from his office.
Where's Charlie? I'm ready to get our Sunday ice cream.
Oh, sorry, Dad. The truck came a bit early today, and Neil took him to get ice cream. You said not to disturb you.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Newman. I didn't mean to. Oh, no need to apologize, Neil. You did the right thing.
Neil also bought a tub of ice cream. I winked at Dad. Dad rubbed his hands together.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I have some business to take care of in the kitchen.
The following weekend, Neil and I went to the mall. He purchased a few trinkets for my family, and then we stopped by the toy store on the way out.
Does Charlie have a bike?
Neil turned to me. No, Dad wanted to purchase one for him for Christmas and teach him how to ride like he did me.
Do you think they'll mind if I purchased it, since we're here and all?
I don't think it'll be a problem. I helped Neil pick a bike for Charlie and we left the mall. I couldn't wait to see Charlie's face when he saw it. Charlie! I called as soon as we walked through the front door. Charlie came running towards me. Look at what Neil got you! He squealed excitedly.
How about we go outside and take it for a spin?
Neil winked at Charlie. Charlie nodded excitedly. I'll leave you boys to it. I kissed Neil before he and Charlie went outside. I picked up my phone and called Emily, my best friend. Emily used to live across the road, but her family moved about a year ago. You won't believe what Neil got Charlie.
A yacht?
Emily asked sarcastically. Wrong. I rolled my eyes. He bought him a bike.
Wait, isn't that what your dad wanted to buy him for Christmas?
Yeah, but there are many other things they could get him. I don't understand why you never have anything positive to say when it comes to Neil.
Because he's just creepy. There's something about him that I just can't put my finger on. Be careful, Cassie.
After I chatted with Emily, I went outside to spend the rest of the afternoon with Charlie and Neil. About a month later, a new family, the Douglases, moved into the house across the street. I went to put out the trash and decided to walk over to say hello to the guy who was mowing the lawn. Hey, morning. I'm Cassie.
Hey, nice to meet you, Cassie. I'm Marvin.
As we chatted, Neil pulled up in front of my house. He hopped out the car and jogged over to Marvin and I. He slid his arm around my waist and kissed me on my cheek. My cheeks grew red with embarrassment.
Good morning, babe. Who's your new friend?
This is Marvin. He's the new neighbor. Marvin extended his hand and Neil shook it firmly.
You look familiar. Have we met before?
No, I guess I just have one of those faces.
There was an awkward silence before I waved goodbye and headed home with Neil by my side. Over the next week, my family and I began our Christmas shopping. We had a tradition to put our tree up the first Saturday in December as a family. This Saturday, however, there was a terrible accident, and Dad was stuck on the highway in traffic.
Why don't you guys bring the Christmas things out of the garage while Charlie and I bake some cookies?
Mom looked at Neil and I. Charlie went to the kitchen, while Neil and I went to the garage. About 30 minutes later, the boxes and containers of decorations, as well as the tree, lay on the living room floor. Within the next hour and a half, the cookies were baked and decorated, and we had quite a few waiting for Dad to walk through the front door.
Mom, can we put up the tree, please?
Charlie tugged at Mom's clothes. Mom agreed, but she told us to leave the star for Dad. Charlie hugged Mom before he ran to open the Christmas containers. I put on the Christmas music, and we decorated the tree as we sang. By the time we were finished with the tree in the living room, we were exhausted. Mom and I went to the kitchen to get some refreshments, while Charlie and Neil added extra touches to the tree. When Mom and I walked back into the living room with the tray of goodies, Mom gasped as Neil adjusted the star on the tree with a bright-eyed Charlie by his side. Before I could say anything, the door opened and Dad walked in. The smile on his face quickly vanished when he realized the star was placed on the tree. He cleared his throat.
Good evening, guys and gals. The tree looks nice.
Dad excused himself and went to his office. How could you? My eyes flared.
Don't be mad at him. I asked Neil to put it on the tree.
Neil knows better, Charlie. He isn't 6.
Cassie, it's okay. I'll talk to Dad later. But come and help me prepare dinner.
Dinner was awkward. Dad didn't say much, and Mom tried to make small talk about anything that came to mind. But after a while, when she realized that it wasn't working, she stopped talking. After dinner, Neil left and I curled up next to Dad on the sofa. I'm sorry that Neil didn't wait for you. I could take down the tree if you want. Dad chuckled.
It's okay. I know I've been working a lot since I'm trying to get this promotion. Now I'm wondering if I even want the promotion, if it means not spending time with my family.
Dad, we love you and understand that you have to work.
I know, honey. I guess I have a few tough choices to make.
The next day, I went to throw out the trash and saw Emily as she walked out of the Douglas house, hand in hand with Marvin. I walked over and as I approached, I smiled. Well, what do we have here? Emily laughed.
Cassie, let me introduce you to my boyfriend, Marvin.
Wait, you two know each other?
I nodded. We've been best friends since we were 5. A car pulled up in front of us.
That's my mom.
Emily turned to Marvin.
I'll see you tomorrow night, okay?
He nodded.
Bye, Emily. I'll call you later.
I bet you will.
She chuckled. Emily hopped into the car and the car drove off. As soon as the car drove off, Neil pulled up to my house. Neil hopped out of the car, grabbed my hand, and dragged me across the street.
Hey, what are you doing?
Marvin yelled. I'll be okay, Marvin. I yelled as I pulled away from Neil. What is wrong with you? How dare you grab me like that?
I don't want you to speak with him.
So you're trying to control me now? I think it's time for you to leave. And this relationship is over. I stormed off and walked into the house. One afternoon, Mom asked me if I could pick up Charlie from school, which is about 2 blocks away. As I walked up to the school gate, I saw Charlie's friends, but no Charlie. Hey guys, is Charlie still in class?
No, some guy in a red car just picked him up. I think Charlie called him Neil.
Immediately, I called Mom and told her that Neil has Charlie. Mom tried to calm me down over the phone, but she couldn't. She told me that she was going to hang up so she could call the police. By the time I arrived home, I ran to Mom, who hugged me. It's all my fault. I can't believe Neil would do something like this.
It's not your fault, Cassie. Charlie will be okay.
Dad arrived home about 20 minutes later. I tried calling Neil, but it went straight to voicemail. Around 6 p.m., we heard a car pull up in Charlie's voice. My parents and I ran to the front door and pulled it open. Neil and Charlie walked up the driveway hand in hand. Charlie held carnival balloons in his hand. My parents and I stepped onto the front porch.
Hey, Charlie, buddy, how are you?
Dad asked.
Neil took me to the carnival and we had a great time.
Okay, son, go and get washed up for dinner.
Dad then turned to Mom.
Take the kids inside. I'll be inside in a few minutes.
But Dad, I protested. Dad looked at me sternly and I followed Mom and Charlie inside, who babbled about what a great time he had. I went to the front window and opened it slightly. Dad told Neil if he ever stepped on our property again, that he'd get a restraining order. Neil told Dad that he was part of our family no matter what happened between him and me. Then it happened. Dad swung at Neil. His fist connected squarely with Neil's jaw. Neil stumbled backwards and retreated to his car. Dad opened the front door and I threw my arms around him and squeezed my eyes shut.
Hey, babe.
I opened my eyes and there stood Neil with a knife pointed at Dad's back. He motioned for me to step further into the house. Once we were all inside, Neil locked the door.
Like I said, Mr. Newman, I'm part of this family no matter what.
I watched in horror as Neil hit Dad over the head with the bottom of the knife. Mom and Charlie came out of the kitchen when Dad crashed to the floor.
If any of you make a sound, he's a dead man, got it?
Neil instructed Mom and I to tie up Dad and put him in the bathroom. Next, he made us nail down the windows and the doors and barricade them. After that, he cut the house phone and took all our devices so we couldn't call for help. Finally, Neil locked us in our rooms and warned us about trying to escape. Once I was locked in my room, I knew I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I needed to get help. I dug through the items in my closet, looking for anything that could help me. I came across a flashlight. Maybe I can send out an SOS, I mumbled. I turned off my room light and went to the window and flicked the flashlight on and off. I was determined to not give up until someone saw the light. About 30 minutes later, I saw a flashlight signal coming from Marvin's house. It flashed 3 times, then stopped, And I did the same. I prayed that whoever had the flashlight knew I was signaling for help. After a few minutes, I sat on my bed and drifted off to sleep. I woke up the next day as someone knocked on my door. I heard the key turn in the lock, and Neil walked into the room.
Get up, take a shower, and meet us in the kitchen for breakfast.
After showering, I went to the kitchen. I stopped by the entrance as Mom and Charlie looked terrified as they sat by the table. Neil sat at the head of the table, dressed in Dad's clothing, glasses and all. "Where is Dad?" I asked as I sat.
Locked away as he should be.
Neil, please, let us go.
Mom's voice shook. "Dad has diabetes. Please, he needs to eat," I begged. Neil slammed his fist against the table.
I am now the head of this household, and all of you will obey me.
He snarled. After breakfast, Mom, Charlie, and I did everything Neil wanted us to do. I knew that I had to do something and soon. When Neil finally sent us to our rooms that night, I retrieved the flashlight, turned off my light, and sent the SOS to the Douglases. My heart jumped when I got an immediate response. Suddenly, there was a knock on my window and I dropped the flashlight. I ran and flicked on my light before I returned to the window. I saw a man in all black with a knife hiding in the bushes under my window. He placed his hand on his lips for me to be quiet. I quickly grabbed the notepad and pen and wrote a note. 4 hostages, windows and doors nailed shut. Please help us. The man nodded and disappeared into the night. A few minutes later, I heard loud crashes and people running through the house. Within 3 minutes, the house was quiet once more. Was it over? A knock on my door startled me. "Yes?" I croaked. Emily's voice rang out from the other side.
Cassie, it's me. Open up.
I ran to the door. My hand shook as I unlocked the door. Emily's eyes were filled with relief and she threw her arms around me.
I'm so happy you're okay. This morning when Marvin messaged me about the flashlight, I was so concerned. I know that was our secret code when we were kids.
How is Dad? And where are Charlie and Mom?
Everyone is safe.
Marvin walked towards us.
I finally remembered who Neil was. He escaped the mental institution about 2 years ago. His face was plastered all over the news and on posters. He changed his hair color and his name, but his physical features stayed the same.
While Neil was taken to the mental institution, my family and I were taken to the hospital. Mom, Charlie, and I were released the next day, but Dad was kept under observation for a few days. Once Dad got out, he got the promotion. And wouldn't you know, the promotion needed Dad to move to another country? Neil changed my family's life forever. We aren't as trusting as we once were. I haven't had a boyfriend since, and I don't think I'll have one anytime in the near future.